Welcome back, tribe from the North, brave and bold, to the official, unofficial podcast of your Idaho Vandals and the Vandals affiliate on the Big Sky Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chris Hammond, and with me today, I have Martin Heemstra on back-to-back podcasts. How are you doing today, Martin?
Good. How about you, Chris?
Doing good. But I think probably most importantly, we have three-time Olympic gold medalist and Vandal legend, Kristin Armstrong. Kristin, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good. Well, I know we're super excited to have you. Normally we're talking football right now, but when that all got canceled, we were like, all right, who are some just all-time Vandals we can get on? And your name was, top of the list, and so we're happy we got you on. And so thank you for joining us. This episode, like all episodes, is brought to you by Montucky Cold Snacks. Ain't nothing like cracking a Montucky Cold Snack, an ultra-refreshing light beer born in majestic Big Sky country. The best part is when you crack a snack, you're giving back. Montucky Cold Snacks donates 8% of profits back to local causes, even right here in Idaho, supporting organizations like the CW Hogs and the Idaho Food Bank. Yeehaw! That's freaking awesome. Montucky Cold Snacks, the light American log for pow-pow rippers, gator wranglers, pony riders, and badass do-gooders. Visit MontuckyColdSnacks.com today to find out how to get your ass some snacks. They probably should add cyclists in there as well for today's episode. But so for those of you who don't know, Kristin, why don't you tell the people just a little bit briefly about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Kristin Armstrong. I am a Vandal. I graduated back in '95, so quite some time ago. But, once a Vandal, always a Vandal. I'm in Boise, Idaho now. And I guess, for those of you Vandals who knew me back in the day as a Vandal, going to school, I probably did a lot more on the sports side than you ever probably would have thought, just knowing I was in a sorority. I had a great time. And yeah, I mean, where I've come from '95 is completely a different trajectory than I ever thought. So always happy to be back talking about my Vandal days, because those are some of the days I'll never forget.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you saw it in the beginning, but we actually have your Idaho from London. It's been part of my background here since we started this. So you've actually been a part of every episode. You just didn't know it. You kind of mentioned it, but one thing I kind of want to start with, I know you're originally not from the state of Idaho, correct? So how did you end up at the University of Idaho?
Well, that's a great question, because my dad was in the Marine Corps. So I pretty much was a military brat. I moved every 3 years, and I happened to graduate from Okinawa, Japan. And I always joke about how I landed in Moscow, Idaho. Not Moscow, but Moscow, Idaho. And people, I came to the campus after my mom grew up in Idaho Falls. My dad grew up in California. So when you're in the military, you get to choose kind of where you pay taxes. And of course, Idaho, California, it's an easy choice there.
Yeah.
And so we were in state, and a lot of military brats, you either go to college where your dad's going to be stationed or your mom's going to be stationed, or you end up where you get in-state tuition. So that was very appealing for my family.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's hard to look back now. I mean, I that's why we're still here. We can't talk enough about it. So.
Sorry. Chris?
Oh, no, you're up, Martin.
Oh, yeah. So what led you to running track at Idaho?
Oh, wow. So, graduated from Okinawa, Japan, there's not like the typical recruitment that happens in most high schools. I mean, as a military child over in a DOD school, you don't have like big recruiters kind of saying, oh, maybe you should go to this college or that college. So I was always an athlete since I was a young child, and I loved to play soccer. I loved to run. I ran the half mile. And those were probably the two sports that I had the greatest chance of doing in college as a walk-on. And at the time when I was at University of Idaho, there was no soccer program. And that was a big bummer because I would have preferred, though given my history now, you wouldn't have thought that, but I would have preferred a team sport in college. And so one day I went up to college, and the first semester I was so busy. I went through the whole sorority thing, and I didn't have a time. I was having just a great time as a freshman on campus. And it wasn't until that second semester where I was missing my athletic endeavors, and decided that I was going to go try out for the track team. And so I went and I did a couple of things for the coach. And so I was a walk-on as a half-mile runner. And though the time as an athlete at U of I didn't last long, I walked on and I trained all summer. And when you run a half mile, when I was there at U of I, the coach told me that, oh, if you run a half mile or more, you also get to run cross country. And I thought, there's no getting to about this, because I did soccer, but running a half mile, that was about as long as I wanted to go. And so I ran cross country for my sophomore year. And I just, it wasn't for me. It wasn't the sport that I fell in love with. And I actually took a step back, and I decided to continue my career at U of I playing intramurals, and I had just a much better time, which in the long run, I think that it was probably a blessing in disguise. I was an athlete since I was very young. And so I felt like maybe those few years at U of I took a break. When I graduated, I had that fire again to do something big. So
yeah. Well,
Okay.
and then that you did. So you kind of touched on it, but Greek life at Idaho's huge part of the university. And being Greek myself, I always like to kind of ask, like, what were your thoughts and some of your favorite parts, and what led you to doing the sorority route when you went up there?
Well, just like you said, I think the Greek system at every university is very different. I think that at some universities it doesn't have such a large presence or an impact, but I had heard that at the University of Idaho that it was a really big thing. And for me, coming from Okinawa, Japan, not having any friends, not coming up from any town in Idaho with other high school, friends, I knew I was going to go to U of I alone. I didn't have a sports team to join, and so I thought, my parents were both Greek, actually, when they were in college. So it was sort of in my family, being in a sorority and fraternity. So I thought I would give it a go and go through Rush, and I became a Kappa. And it was really one of my best experiences, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of things said about the Greek system, and sometimes it gets a bad rap. But at the end of the day, I can tell you that I can always talk about when I was there. I feel like I'm an old woman now. But truly, when I was there, we had great GPAs, and I felt like I always had somebody in my house that was in a class with me, or an upperclassman that could always help me. And the academic piece of the sorority was very strict. And so if you weren't hitting a certain GPA, you were put on probation and you were on an academic plan. So though it looks like, the Greek system is all about, going out and going to parties and the whole social life, and it is, there's no question. But at the same time, there's a lot of things you learn. I learned a lot of responsibility. I learned a lot of time management. I learned little things like manners. What do you do at a formal dinner? And those are things that I don't think that you can just learn anywhere else. And so I always push going Greek because of the success I had there. As I think it all started my freshman year, because I think that's where you either make it or you break it. You either make it that first and second semester, and then you're kind of on your way. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have that support, you can easily kind of fall off that cliff and be home in no time. So,
very true.
I loved University of Idaho because everything on campus that I was doing, I was doing the same thing everybody else was in town. I was a student, and I worked at the pool. I taught swim lessons, and I lifeguarded. But at the end of the day, I felt like everyone in town was doing the same thing I was, which was we were trying to make it through our college days. And it was definitely the college experience that I had always, when you're a kid, you think, oh, what is college like? And it really provided that experience for myself.
Yeah.
And so then, do you have a favorite memory of UI, or maybe a couple of favorite memories?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many memories at U of I. Some that I do not want to share.
That's fine.
Some that, one of my fondest memories, and it has nothing to do with like already being up there, but I can tell you, I'll never forget my parents dropping me off the first day. And when we were going through Rush, we were dropped off at the dorms to check in. And so we would always live in the dorms, go through Rush. And my dad, remember, I graduated from Okinawa, Japan. So I would say that Japan is a step or 10 steps ahead of Idaho when it comes to fashion. And especially, let's not talk about the big city of Boise. Let's just talk about Moscow in general. Fashion in Japan, like two different things going on here. So I arrive in Moscow, Idaho, in the middle of, like, you can imagine, from where I just graduated high school, where, like you said, how did you land? I seriously did land at the University of Idaho. So my dad goes, hey, I'm telling you, when you go to U of I, you need to go up there with some 501 jeans and some Birkenstocks. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm putting a pair of 501 jeans on, nor am I putting Birkenstocks on. I'm going to go for my stylish jeans and, as a senior in high school. And my dad said, I'm telling you right now, you just want to blend in, you want to fit in. These people up there are not wearing anything but Birkenstocks, 501s, and probably a sweatshirt. And I'm like, whatever, Dad, whatever. And so I remember going up there and driving around, and my dad, it's like looking left and right. He's like, see, another pair. I'm like, oh my gosh.
He was right.
And I remember going home for Thanksgiving, and the first thing I did, because back then, 501 jeans, you either bought them like brand new and they were horrible, like dark blue, like you had to break them in, or you went to every thrift store and you try to find the best worn pair ever. And that's not only did I gain like 15 pounds by my freshman year or Thanksgiving, and I couldn't fit in my designer jeans anymore, but I definitely went to thrift stores and I couldn't go back without this whole look. It's a special one. It's like when you wear your sweatshirt with your house name, and you have either 501s, sweatpants, or Birkenstocks, when it's not wintertime. I'm like, it's just and it's all come back. I mean, this is what people do.
Yeah. And we had some crazy people that did that even in the wintertime. I had one, his whole thing was, if it's not actively snowing, then snow won't be on top of my feet, so I won't be cold. So he wore Birkenstocks every day to class. I was like, you're a crazy person, man.
Yeah, it's special up there. And that was definitely a memory. I would say the other memory I have, again, now I'm taking myself outside of when I was up there, but I'll never forget, I think one of my favorite times up at University of Idaho is the springtime. And I was asked to come give the commencement speech for 2010, the graduates, and to look out and to see like 10,000 people in the audience in the Kibbe Dome was it was a very special time to come back to my alma mater and speak and think back at the day of when I graduated. I'm thinking, I didn't know what this clown set up on stage. So my whole goal was to not be normal. Like, I wanted to say something that would that the graduates would actually listen to. Cause I know I just wanted to get out of there. And so it was really cool to have that opportunity. And I still, to this day, will walk through grocery stores. I'll go all these different places, and people will stop me and they said, you spoke at my commencement in 2010. I'll never forget it. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
I just say that's pretty unique. Is that yeah? I mean, usually they get somebody that doesn't have any relationship to the university, or very very small. Like ours was, I think, in 2015 was like a Moscow local who kind of made it as like a poet and an author, but didn't actually go to the University of Idaho. So it's like, okay, you're still there, but like having someone like you, that would have been, I would imagine back in 2010, those graduates remembered it. But
it was fun. It was great.
Yeah. So now kind of getting into what happened after college. You mentioned like you wanted to maybe possibly explore playing soccer or a team sport. You're lifeguarding at the pool. You did a little bit of a track stint. Then you ended up becoming an Olympian in cycling. So what got you into cycling? Just rode your bike to school a bunch as a kid, or?
Well, it was crazy because I definitely didn't ride my bike. Well, I had this bike parked in the back of my sorority at U of I for like 4 years, and it didn't move.
Me too.
So that was kind of dorky. And the people who like rode around in spandex, I'm like, I would sit on my front porch and I'm like, these people are weird. Like I poke fun at people, either riding their bikes in spandex or swimsuits, triathletes, whatever. So I graduated college and I got a real job I was an aquatic director at the new YMCA in Boise, Idaho. And I worked really, you go to college and you think you study, some of us, textbook says, oh, I feel like I need to get married. I need to have a family, all these things that you kind of learn depending on your own background. And so I was kind of doing the check boxes. I got this amazing job. And all of a sudden I realized that when you don't have sports and you don't have like activity in your life, you actually have to be self-motivated. You're like, wow, you mean nobody's telling me to do anything, and so I'm not. And so there was a time where a couple years after graduating college, I'm like, oh, wow, maybe I should be active again. Like, I mean, I felt like I was gaining, it was weird. It was a weird time for me. So I decided one day I was gonna ride my bike to work, and it was like 8 miles away. And I was really motivated. I'm like, I'm gonna ride my bike to work. I'm gonna ride it home. And I rode my bike to work and I was like, there's no way I'm riding my bike home. I don't know. I mean, Uber and like, they were not around at the time. And so I'm like, I don't know how I'm getting home, but I'm not riding my bike home. And it took me a few days to ride my bike home. But I had a swimming background and I had a running background. And my friends, they dared me to do this triathlon in town. And it was about a 400-meter swim, a 6-mile bike, and a 2-mile run. And I got out of the water in a pretty good position. And then I got on my mountain bike with knobby tires that I had at college, and I had tennis shoes, and I was going so hard. And I'm like watching these people like pass me, like I'm standing still. And I'm like, who are these people? And so I got kind of cocky. I was like, well, that's okay, because I have running shoes on already. I don't have those like clip weird things in my shoes. And I'm just going to get off and run. I'm a fast runner. So I'm going to get off and run really fast and pass all these people. And it was humiliating. Like I got off a bike, I felt like Gumby. I walked. I was like, I'm done. I think the race took me like 30 minutes, and I was so tired. I took like 2 weeks off. I'm like, I don't need to work out for 2 weeks because that was really hard. And so over those 2 weeks, I was like, what have I become? And so I almost shamed myself into like, never again am I going to do this without like being in a little bit of shape. So that's when I started swimming and running more. I started saving up money to buy a bike because I had no money. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I finally saved up enough money to buy a bike. And then I had to save up more money to buy a helmet, to buy shoes. Like I was just broke out of college, even though I had what you would consider a good job.
Yeah.
It was like barely making it. And so I finally got all that stuff, and I started doing some triathlons and had some setbacks with my hips, just really bad hips. And I thought, this is just a sign that I need to get a real job, and I need to not focus on being an athlete anymore. I'm past that. Because I thought at the time I was so old. I'm like, I'm in my mid-20s. Like, I do not need to be focused on this anymore. This is like what you do in high school.
Yeah.
And so I went back and thought, I'm just going to focus on work. And before I knew it, I had people coming to me saying, when you're doing some triathlons, you became a really strong cyclist. You should think about riding your bike more. And I was like, there's no way like I'm focused on my job and my career. And so this local team talked me into riding with them. And one of the largest races in the world came to Boise, Idaho. And it was a 10-day stage race. And I took all my vacation days and I entered that race. And I would go at night and put my headlamp on and I would train. I would just do loops by my neighborhood. And then on the weekends, I would go study the courses that were in front of me that they were going to have in what they call the HP Women's Challenge. And about halfway through the Women's Challenge, I had 3 contract offers from professional teams. And at this time, I was 28 years old, and I signed on my first contract with a professional team at age 29. And then my first Olympics was at age 31. And that was because it was Olympic trials, and the first one who crossed the finish line whoever won that race got a free spot to the Olympics. They earned their spot. And I was supposed to be I was a dark horse, but I was supposed to be working for my team. And as I was working for my team, in cycling, you go off the front and you kind of tease the other teams. You make them chase you. Well, I got off the front and no one chased me down because I wasn't a favorite. They're like, oh, who's that new girl? Yeah. And I just kept riding as hard as I could. And I was like, I'm going to Olympics. Oh my gosh. I'm like 31 years old and I'm going to Athens. And like, before I knew it, this childhood dream that you always think of, you grew up watching Olympics and you're thinking, wouldn't that be cool one day? And you get past it. You're kind of like, you get in high school, you're like, never am I ever going to be that person. And then it happened. And then after that, I got the bug of like, well, I can do better than this. And oh my gosh, before I knew it, I was going to be 35 in my next games. And then that's when I won my first medal, my gold medal in Beijing. And then I was like, I'm done. I'm out. I retire. I want to have a baby. And then here comes Lucas in 2010. And before I knew it, I was that person who I was like, these moms, they have kids. Why would they ever do anything for themselves again? Because that's not what moms do. That's super selfish. That would never be me. And it was just like a month after I had Lucas, I announced my comeback. So, and then after that, I retired again after winning my second gold medal. And I had lots of injuries. I had 3 hip surgeries and a spine surgery. And I don't know what it was. I got a real job at a St. Luke's health system. And it was probably the dream job. Like, out of college, it would be the job that I would have written for myself. Yeah. But there was something about, you go off and you hit the pinnacle of sport or your career, and you try to be a little bit normal. You're like, I just want a normal job. I want to wake up and know what I'm doing every day. And I have a family. And the next thing you know, you're just feeling like, I wasn't even feeling like I was challenged. And I just wasn't done. And that's what I always say, athletes, when they retire, they have to make this decision on their own. So here I am, 15 months before Rio, and I'm like, I'm coming back. And now, Rio, I'm turning 43 years old. And I win my 3rd gold medal, which I look back at those days, and that's 4 years ago now. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, people are like, what made you think about going back for a second and then a third? And at the time, I'm like, because I want to, like, I'm so driven to do this. And now I look back and I'm like, I was crazy. Like, why did I take that risk? Because, in athletics, they always say you're just as good as your last race. Mm-hmm. So you think those risks I took to end on top, I wasn't even thinking about that at the time. I don't regret anything. I always tell moms that, if I didn't get to bring Lucas along my journey as an Olympian, what a bummer that would have been. So forget the whole being selfish. Like you got to live your dream and be an inspiration to your children and family. But I look back at my U of I days, and I run into a lot of people, and they're just like, you're so different back in the day. I go, but I've enjoyed every minute, and I'll never, always look back at those definitely those fond memories.
Yeah.
So could you explain, how you joined it, but like, could you explain like what time trial races are? Is it
Yeah. So yeah, I should have talked about that earlier, but my event is obviously cycling, so it's a bike race. A lot of people know it as the Tour de France. It's a big group of people, and the first person across the finish line wins. And there's normally like 100 of you or more. So then there's another event called the time trial, which is you're on a bike and it's super aerodynamic, and you can see it kind of in my background, but it's basically you have aero bars and you have an aero helmet and you have a tight skin suit, and every second matters. And they call it the race of truth. It's basically you against the clock. So every 2 minutes you go, and then your competitor goes, and then the next competitor goes. At the end of the day, it's like a time trial. They basically say the fastest time wins. And so the distances can vary though, because in the sport of cycling for women, the shortest race would be 20 kilometers in a time trial, and the longest race would be 30 kilometers. So in Rio, my race was 30 kilometers. It was about 44 minutes in length, whereas some of my other Olympics were about 26, 27 minutes in length. So you think about going as hard as you can for like 26 minutes, and then like another year going as hard as you can for 44. I mean, that's like saying that you're going to go run 3 minutes really fast, and by the way, tomorrow we're going to put you in a 10K. So over time, obviously the longer it was, the better it was for me. It's no different than a marathon runner. As you get older, that endurance and that stamina just improve over time. And so I was lucky that my career ended with a longer time trial. But yeah, that's the sport of cycling. There's mountain biking, which is on the dirt. There's track riding, which is a velodrome, which is like a 250-meter circle, and they have no brakes.
It's like really tilted, right?
Yeah. So it's like
you can just tip over.
Yeah. But that G-force, it's I've done some training on those velodromes, and that's what you need up in Moscow is you need a covered velodrome so people can just ride inside in circles all year long.
The Kibbie you could probably convert it.
Right?
Get it going, awesome. Right? When the football team's not in there.
Right?
Velodrome for the winter through spring.
That would be awesome. Speaking of Vandal football, I can't forget to tell you, just because when we talk about fond memories, this is a good one because we all, in my generation, you have to brag about. I was at U of I when we won.
Yes.
We were there for the 12-year streak. In fact, we used to have the shirts that had like the half rack. Like we'd be like, we were a winning football team. So a lot of the social pieces of being up at U of I was really centered around going to football games. And it was just so much fun. And I'll never forget driving down to Boise when we used to play Boise State. And those were great memories. In fact, with everything going on right now, it's so hard for athletics, for these athletes. I'm coaching 3 women who 2 of them already qualified for Tokyo, so they're on their way. And there's another one that's on the cusp of making the team. But, every athlete that I've worked with, they're taking it a little bit differently. And so, it's tough. I mean, there's people who are truly motivated by this, but then there's also the athletes that you have to kind of have to light a fire again. You have to say, hey, we got to get back at it, So, yeah. So
so the time trial, what's probably the most difficult I'm imagining is, like you mentioned, like the Tour de France. When you're in that race, you can see who's in first place. where I feel like in the time trial, you're just assuming that somebody's faster, so you need to go faster, right? Or do they have kind of timestamps so you have an idea of like your pacing? Like I know like when you're watching ski racers, like you know, it pops up like they're half second off the lead or whatever. Do you get that while you're going? Are you pretty much going in like, I know what that person's time was and I just have to beat it? Or
so it's on a ranking system, which is great it was great for me because I was a reigning Olympic champion. I got to wear number 1, which means I go last, which means I have a microphone in my ear, and I don't necessarily, well, I have time splits, but I only have 2 time splits during the race. And so my coach is in my ear. So at the first time split, he told me that I was 9 seconds up. So that meant I was 9 seconds faster than any other person on the course. And I was the last one on course.
that helps, yeah.
The second time split, I was 2 seconds down. And so I was freaking out. And I was going into a very, very wet, dangerous descent. And I took big risks. And then about 3 kilometers ago, I'll never forget this. It was kind of flat, twisty to the finish line. And my coach in my ear said, listen, you're in the medal, because he got the news from the race radio. He said, hey, you're in medal contention. It's close. My job's done. It's up to you. Do you want to take home gold, silver, or bronze tonight? He's like, it's down to seconds. So I won the gold by 5 seconds. So I took back, so I was 2 seconds down on the second time split. So I took back 7 seconds.
That's awesome.
And the day before we had talked about, if I get to the top of the hill down, there's nowhere to make up time. So I probably won't win if I'm down. And so you're 2 seconds down. I'm like, oh, I lost. I just kind of went, I don't know what happened to me. Like, I just went crazy. I just was like, I can't, because you got to go, especially when you retire, that's like what you have to live with. It's a horrible feeling to think. I mean, it's not a horrible feeling to win a medal, trust me. But when you've won the gold, you just want to win it again.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. But you touched on it. But Par 4 Olympics, very in a way, kind of, if you're looking at it, two all kind of very unique Olympics. I mean, Athens, your first Olympics is a super special one. It's the first time the Olympic Games have been back in Greece in forever. You've kind of touched on Rio. I remember one that was during the Zika virus, so there's a lot of controversy there. And then I remember watching your race because my boss, I was out in the working force, and he was a Vandal, and so we made sure we watched it. But I do remember there was a dangerous stretch where, I remember it being wet because it had rained the day before or something, and they possibly were going to cancel it, I think, if I remembered right, or something weird. But then London, that was important. And then obviously you got to go to Beijing. Did you ever obviously it's hard to ever imagine going to 4 Olympics, but then winning 3 straight gold medals. I mean, can you kind of just tell us about your experiences and maybe a little fun bit from each of the 4 stops?
Yeah, people ask me all the time, what's your favorite Olympic Games? They're like, assuming I have a favorite. And I would say that my favorite was London. And that was really 100% because there's nothing more special than having my son on the podium with me. Like, that was just, I didn't even know that wasn't even a thing. So that's against all protocol. And somehow he was
not happy.
Just he ran to me, and I asked him when I was on the podium, when I was getting my medal, I said, can I have my son up here? And they said, no. And the next thing I know, Lucas is running to me, and the national anthem's playing. And so there was nothing better than London, because there were so many people. When I came back as a mom, there were so many people. That's kind of when social media kind of all started. And there are some mean people out there. They were basically telling me that I was selfish and I was too old. I was in my upper 30s at the time. And there's just a lot of doubters that I can't do it. So what people don't understand about me is that when you tell me I can't do it, I'm just going to try harder. It's just my personality. And so Athens was like a blur. One of the biggest pieces of advice I got from Athens before Athens was, hey, don't forget to compete. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they told me that oftentimes we work so hard as an athlete to qualify for something. Like it might be a time standard for a running race or a swimming race, or you might make the finals for like football or a ball sport. And you get there and you forget to compete because you've already made it to the big game or the big event. And so you always have to look at it as you don't have a second chance.
Yeah.
And I got back from Athens because I didn't know what this guy was talking about. I was like, what is this guy talking about? Everyone has advice for me. And I got from Athens and I'm sitting on my couch watching the closing ceremonies. I'm like, that was a weird experience. I'm like, okay, so now I'm an Olympian. But I didn't really, it was just awkward. I know exactly what he's talking about now. So one of the things I always tell athletes is don't just shoot for a qualifying time, because if you're good enough, you need to shoot for a result, because you're going to really regret it if you don't. Because if you think about my situation, who would have ever thought that I would have had a second chance at the Olympics? Mm-hmm. Let alone when you finally make a qualifying time in college, whether you're a runner or whatever sport you're in, you may not have a second chance ever in life. So you always have to think past what maybe that mini goal is. Beijing was just crazy because all of the hype of like, well, first of all, like, you know, I went to go pre-ride about 6 months before Beijing, mm-hmm. and you couldn't even see across the street. I mean, it was just like, wow, yeah, smoggy, and you get there and you're like, wow, what happened? There's like blue sky, and the roads that you're driving down, they weren't crowded anymore, and like there's beautiful plants and trees everywhere, and you're like, oh. And so the things they do for the Olympics for broadcast is quite something. Yeah. So you can never really, if you've been to a country before, what they do for the Olympic Games is they pretty much they just make it right.
Yeah.
And then so London, that was the big one with my child, and then Rio. By far, when I made a comeback from Rio, I made that decision, and it was probably a decision. Now, in hindsight, I won a third gold medal, and I'm super psyched about it. Mm-hmm. But it was the hardest 15 months ever. And looking back at that, I'm just like, was that even worth it? Because it was that hard. Meaning, you think people were like hard on me as a mom. When I was over 40, people were like, don't you have enough? Why are you coming back? Give it up. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And now you think about social media, and you know, you have to always surround yourself by people who believe in you, because what I learned in Rio was that people have a hard time seeing people be successful. And so as you mature in life, you realize that there's a lot of trollers out there. And mm-hmm. I went through that social media, and a lot of kids, and that's why I'm talking about it right now. There's a lot of athletes and kids who go through a social media bullying. No matter who you are, you know, there's always unkind people. So my one of my favorite things to do was to delete people. Any mean thing, any affiliation with any mean person is like, you're out. And so I had a period of time in Rio where prior to the Olympics, I actually got rid of my social media for a good 30 days, because sometimes you just have to really focus and keep the outside noise.
Yeah.
You know, it all worked out, and I came out on top. And the other positive about Rio was, I mentioned earlier about how important it is for an athlete to retire on their own and to make that decision. A lot of times there might be suggestions, but at the end of the day, you have to decide when you want to hang it up. And Rio was that final competition where I said, you know, I've done everything I want in sport, and hit the pinnacle multiple times. And now it's time for me to reverse that role and to pass the baton. And the cool thing about one of the gals I'm coaching for Tokyo is that she's the favorite to win my same event. And so the cool thing is that if I can help her win the gold medal in Tokyo, then it's like, to me, it's like my 4th gold medal, because I'm coaching that next athlete in that same event. So that's a pretty cool thing. She is the current world champion, and yeah, hopefully Tokyo happens. That's still kind of a TBD.
Yeah, very much.
Like, I know you kind of mentioned about the Tokyo stuff, but you might have seen the question. But what was your initial reaction to first hearing that it's getting moved to 2021? Like, as an Olympian, what would you think others might be feeling? What was your reaction to first hearing that?
I think my first reaction was, wow, that's some hard news to take. Especially, they might have thought as an organization that they kind of did it in advance so that athletes had enough time. Mm-hmm. But springtime is when you're ready. You've worked so hard, and it comes every 4 years. And so I coach the women I coach that have the spots in Tokyo. They're their young 20s. Their attitude and their perspective was like, I have another year to get better. Now, I do know people who are in their 30s and this was it. This is retirement. I'm done. And I can tell you that they are struggling right now. Yeah. Because when you have a mindset of being done, if somebody told me I had another year until Rio, I don't know what I would have done myself. Like, I don't know if I could have hung on. I'll be honest. And so I think it really depends a lot on your age. Now, I mean, you think about collegiate sports, and my nephew plays football for C of I. And you think about that, and you think about his attitude, and he's a junior. He's going to be a junior. So he's kind of halfway through college. Mm-hmm. He'll have another year of eligibility. He kind of is like, cool, like, I get to play for another, 3 years and go to college.
I get to be a student for one of these years.
And so now I have a friend whose son right now is a senior in high school, and he's a really good player, and he's completely freaking out because you look at scholarships and you think, well, we have all these new incoming freshmen who have scholarships. So what do you do with these seniors in high school right now? And so there's opportunity that's going to be lost for sure. Especially if they don't play, because the West Ada, the bigger cities in Idaho aren't playing right now.
Yeah.
So there's I think it depends on where you are in your career, in your collegiate years. As a coach, my job is to keep it all positive in the head, because when it comes to this level of competition, it's all between the ears. Like, it truly is what you're telling yourself. And if your coach is telling you as an athlete, like, we'll get through this. This is awesome. We have more time now to work. We can become stronger. These are our weaknesses. The athlete's like, yeah, you're right. But if the coach questions the decision, then you've lost your athlete. This is what I've learned as a coach.
So it sounds like you are definitely on the coaching train now. No chance at you participating in Tokyo whenever it happens. But I am curious. I know you've actually gotten into like the business aspect of cycling now. Can you tell us a little bit about KX3 Sports and any of the other stuff you got really going on?
Yeah. So, I've become obviously like an entrepreneur kind of gal, because I feel like working for someone after the last time, it kind of drove me to go back to the Olympic Games. And I'm like, no. And so being an entrepreneur is, there's positive and negatives. The positives are, you kind of run your show, and the negatives are you kind of run your show. Like, it's at risk, a lot of work. So we have a couple companies. I have a coaching company I do coaching for obviously Olympic level athletes. I do group coaching, but also we have designed mounts for bikes. It's called KX3. They're carbon fiber mounts that will kind of, you can clip in your computers, but they're super slick because the only other mounts out there right now, which was our former company, are made of aluminum. And so ours is the only mount company that's made of forged carbon. And so if you think about the high-end bikes these days, or anything, everything's carbon fiber. I mean, who's putting like scrap metal on their bikes anymore? It's just not happening. You're spending you're spending $10,000 on a bike. You know, why would you put metal on your bike? So we have a company we launched. My husband's an engineer. He's a U of I graduate as well. And then, you know, the biggest endeavor we just are into is called Pivot. And we just opened 2 fitness centers in the last year, in the last 12 months in the Treasure Valley, and we have 3 more planned. Nice. So my degree is in exercise physiology. I worked at St. Luke's in community health. I have a huge passion to help people. Like people think, oh, you know, I need to be fit to go to Pivot. And I'm like, no. This is not for like, you know, it is for performance, but it's really for, I always say, you know, 99% of the population, they need to be accountable. They need someone or something to kind of help them get on a path. I would do anything to wake up and have my coach tell me what to do every day again. Like,
right.
So my whole philosophy is, if you can get people on a plan, if you can help people take that next step, we have a gym, we have functional training, we have yoga, we have cycling, and we're going to soon bring in health service. So wellness exams, physical therapy, mental health. We have a registered dietitian. So all of the things I feel like that my life encompassed, whether it be from playing sport and keeping from being injured to going to U of I and majoring in exercise physiology. And my dream was to like be in corporate health. Yeah. And there was no jobs when I got out. I don't know what happened there. And then obviously just my pathway to going from the minute I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting out of shape, to riding my bike, to becoming an Olympian. That's crazy. But just setting goals and actually finding that trigger point to inspire people to change for kind of a better, healthier life. And then being a mom and really, I feel like I'm pretty good at balancing all this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, before people would say, oh, you know, it's so easy for you because you get paid to ride your bike. Like, that's easy. Try working full time and not getting paid to exercise. And so the last 4 years now, I've had my internship of not getting paid, and so motivated. And so now I can actually speak to people that are telling me that I was paid to work out. So anyway, it's really just bringing health and really breaking down barriers for people to be healthy. And they're awesome. Our gyms are awesome. And yeah, I look forward to, you know, I always hope that people from University of Idaho come in the sports medicine or in the wellness arena when they graduate. I hope they come apply at Pivot. I've had a couple of registered dietitians come in that are from U of I that have worked with us. And so, yeah, you know, I always love to see those new graduates because, you know, the field is not a super easy industry to get into. There's always a lot of opportunity, but, you know, if you ever want to stop by, you know, we're always open. So, yeah,
hopefully this helps get the word out there for Vandals that are graduating or just graduated.
Yep.
There you go. Pivot.
All
right. I think we got one more question for you.
Okay.
What advice would you give to a freshman Vandal, or just any advice to any Vandal that's currently attending U of I?
So any freshman out there, if I were to go back, now I'm aging myself again, and give advice is don't be in a hurry. You know, I know that I don't want your parents listening to this, but the time of your life, these next 4 years, these next 5 years are probably the best times that could be some of the best times of your life. There's where friendships are made. By the way, for all of you who have come from Idaho to Idaho, I was a military brat. I moved every 3 years. And the grass isn't greener outside of Idaho. Idaho's a pretty cool place. And oftentimes I go and I do talks and youth and students are always telling me that I just want to get out. I just want to get out. And I tell you what, I've been out and I've come back. And so enjoy every moment up at University of Idaho. It's a great environment. Do everything you can I get the letters from the president of University of Idaho. Do everything you can to keep the campus safe during these really hard times, this pandemic, because my son is online going to school right now. And I'm telling you, you don't want to go there. Do not want to go there. So be appreciative of what they've done and the measures they've taken. But obviously, this is going to be a year to remember. I think everybody will remember 2020. We'll all be happy for 2020 to be behind us. But again, you should embrace this time. And I don't know, studying is important, but have a little fun. You know, you always look back at these days and you might not remember human anatomy and physiology, but you'll remember those friendships. So just, embrace this time. I would go back in a heartbeat.
Agreed. All right. So we did kind of lie to you. We've got one more thing for you. It's, we have a segment called Getting Iced. We put you on the hot seats this entire episode. So we're going to give you a chance here to ask us anything you want. It could be sports related, life related, Idaho related. So we'll do a quick little ad read to give you some time to think about it. And then we'll have you ask it after that. Have your summer plans been canceled? Are you having a hard time finding a backup plan? Well, don't fret and don't look too far away. There are amazing options right out your back door. Venture into Idaho's largest protected wilderness. Venture into the largest protected wilderness in the continental United States for the ultimate form of social distancing. Hughes River Expeditions has run first-class trips on the rivers in the West since 1976. Enjoy a multi-day trip down the Middle Fork of the Salmon River Canyons, and the Selway, or even special trips like the one to see the Perside meteor shower. Camp on pristine beaches, hike amazing trails, soak in beautiful natural hot springs, take in the history along the river's edge, and fish some of the remote stretches of river, and let us handle everything else. Hughes River Expedition is Vandal owned and operated and is ready to take you on the vacation of a lifetime. HRE is booking trips now through 2023. You can check them out at hughesriver.com or give them a call at the HRE office. What are you waiting for? Find out what it's like to grab a paddle, catch dinner, and ride the bull on world-class rapids right here in the Gem State. Call them now at 800-262-1882. That's 800-262-1882. There's never been a better time to get out in the fresh air of Idaho's backcountry. All right, talking about grass isn't always greener outside of Idaho. What other state can you get all that?
I'm telling you, you are keeping it all Idaho here.
That's what we do. A lot of people don't know it. Montucky, even though it's the unofficial beer of Montana, it's Vandal owned. So we keep it very Idaho here. All right. Your turn, Getting Iced. Fire away.
So, obviously I'm here with the two of you. I do podcasts, but what struck me was it was from U of I. And, a lot of times I'm just like, oh, do I have another time to do a podcast? And, but for Vandal, I had a hard time, normally I don't even think twice. I'm like, sure, yeah, I'll be there. What time? And though it maybe took a couple weeks. How did you two start this show? And I haven't even asked sort of where the show came from. And truly, I don't even know where you're going to publicize this. So kind of give it to me.
Yeah. So it started as a website, tubstheclub.com, which does still exist, but it was started by a former Argonaut writer, Sean Kramer, who just felt like once he graduated, the team wasn't really getting coverage. And so he was doing some freelance work for like the Lewiston Tribune, the Spokesman, the Seattle Times, and stuff like that. But wanted to be able to better cover Idaho. It really took off, and I think he started it this preseason of 2016. So he got to ride that whole bowl ride, and it really took off. And then I'm out in Seattle. He's a Seattle guy, so he was moving to Taipei, Taiwan, and asked me if I wanted to kind of take it over. He had already brought Martin in on that time to kind of run. Yeah, at that time, Martin was doing like the band because he's in the marching band, the band and everything like that. And then I was going to be doing Greek life and some sports stuff. And then it kind of evolved. I was like, well, have you thought about doing a podcast? And he was like, I'm down for whatever. It's basically your guys' show now. Go for it. So I started the podcast in 2018 after the announcement that we're moving to the FCS by myself. And then one of our biggest listeners who was asking questions every single week eventually asked if he could be a part of basketball. We brought him on for basketball. It's Brian Marceau. Since then, we've added a former long snapper for the football team and another Vandal to run our Instagram. So we've kind of built this small little team off of just feeling like Idaho wasn't getting enough coverage. And that was kind of the task of it. And it's morphed into a weird friendship where we all talk so much throughout the day, and until a couple of years ago, none of us had even met. So some people still haven't met Sean because he's still over teaching English in Taiwan. But yeah, we just did it. None of us were. Well, Martin's actually the only one still in Moscow, so it was like the rest of us just needed something to feel like Idaho, and we all got involved, and it's turned out to be pretty great.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. I think that you guys have done a good job keeping it super Idaho, and
yes.
There's kind of this little, this little hick flair to it. So
yes, yes, there is.
Good. I think it's good. And for me, sometimes podcasts feel a little stiff, and I think you guys did an awesome job. Just talking and being normal. But to me, that goes to show that Idaho, because I think that's what we're known for. Is we say hi to people and people freak out. They're like, "Why did that person say hi to me? They don't know me." I'm like, "Because that's what we do in Idaho."
Yeah.
Say hi.
I was
leave.
I was just over in Sandpoint this past weekend. I was driving down a little side road, and the guy flipped a wave, and it took me a second. I had to put my hand back out the window and be like, "Oh, I missed him." I'm waving because I was like, Seattle people just don't do that.
Yeah.
So it took me a second to be like, "What's he? Is he? Oh no, he's waving. Oh, that's right. I'm back in Idaho. Need a wave. Sorry, man." But yeah. Well, we want to thank you again for coming on.
My pleasure.
Anything you want to say before we let you go?
Nope. My neighbor, she used to play basketball at U of I, Susie Stride. So if you ever want another Idahoan, she's a handful of years younger than me. You never know what she has to say. So.
Oh, always feel free to pass her along my email.
Okay.
I would 100% love to have her on.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Kristin.
Yeah.
All right, Martin. So that was Kristin Armstrong. So, I'm going to ask you a question. We didn't get to talk about this because we were trying to keep the podcast a certain time limit. Would you rather win an Olympic gold medal? I don't even know what else to ask. Or have basically what I'm trying to say is she also has a park named after her in Boise. That's pretty cool. I feel like I'd still rather have an Olympic gold medal than a park named after me. But I feel like I should adjust my webcam to still make it look like Kristin's still with us. There we go. We'll go to the small screens. But that was cool. Is there anything she said that you really, took away as like, wow, that's awesome?
It was just kind of interesting to see what her thoughts were on the cancellation, how you kind of have to keep people motivated almost.
Yeah.
Without trying to, if you drop off, then other stuff, then they'll lose motivation. So you have to kind of keep yourself in the right direction, always gearing towards Tokyo or whatever event.
Yeah. No, and I'd say what hit me was because obviously my family is big in Olympics, always have been. I kind of wanted to ask her, like, if she met any other Idaho, like, Speedy Peterson, RIP, and Peekaboo Street, but, we didn't get around to it. But, like, her story was so weird because, like, I just remember, like, her kind of coming out of nowhere. I knew she competed in 04, and I don't think she brought it up. I think she did pretty good, like 7th, 8th or something place. So that was impressive on its own. But I was like, before that, I don't think she had much. And that makes sense that she was kind of just got into it, did some trial thing where she was supposed to, like, help the team, but ended up winning it. And that's how she got the spot. Because I do remember something like she'd only had, like, 2 or 3 events before the 04 Olympics that I remember seeing. So it was cool hearing the story that it was late. She never really was into biking. She tried a bike race once and got off it and started running. So it was really cool for me to kind of hear that side of the story of, like, who knew? Hey, I'm not 30 yet. I could still be an Olympian. Like, I'm jazzed right now. I just need to maybe biking's my sport. I'm like her. I have a mountain bike. I've done it a couple times. I've never done a road race. Maybe that's what it is. I just need to hop on to a road race. I think times are a little different now. I feel like there's a lot of people that bike now. I feel like I would have had to start a little bit sooner. But cool interview. We'll tag some of our stuff in the description. So if you're interested in Pivot and also the KX3, we'll put links into there because those are all really awesome products. Real quick, Brian. Martin, Brian. Jeez, we miss you, Brian. By the time this is aired, Brian will have been on an episode forever. The people are going to think he's left. Brian has not left. But football has played. We just had week 0. We're recording this September 1st. The Central Arkansas, number 10 Central Arkansas Bears just beat Austin P, number 13, 7 points. I did not hit my over, which killed my parlay. But we got week 1 football coming up where we got 4 teams playing FBS schools. Your opinion, because Brian and Alex and I have beat this dead horse too much. But do you feel like maybe the Big Sky jumped the gun and not allowing teams like Idaho to possibly pursue something like UCA did, where, you know what, maybe we weren't going to make the playoffs this year. Maybe it's better to get a 9-game exposure where you're going to get 2 to 4 national televised games in the fall and be the biggest show. Everyone in the FCS is following you. I think UCA has just set their program up for the next 5 years of being super successful because they're the biggest name in the FCS this fall. And we're not even sure if FCS football will happen this spring. That aside, they have a potential to absolutely come out as 2020-21 as just the king winner. I mean, pending, obviously, the huge risk they're taking, that goes unspoken. I don't think I need to say what would happen if somebody, had the worst case scenario, COVID happen. But, I'm not going to view the negative side of it. I'm going to go the glass half full that this is going to work. What are your thoughts on the Big Sky saying, even though we're not playing conference play, you also can't go out and pursue your own schedule?
I think I feel that it's the right decision. I feel like they made the right decision, but I also wish they would let the schools decide their out of conference stuff, because the conferences don't, unless I'm missing something, the conferences really don't get a say in who you play for out of conference and stuff. So I think that should have been left up to the schools, individual schools themselves, to let them do their own thing.
Yeah.
I kind of think that maybe, that's pretty much it. I kind of think they made the right call, but I also kind of wish they also maybe would have let the schools make that decision, not the conference itself. Yeah. Unless there was a vote on that too that I missed for.
No. Yeah. So they said no Big Sky play. Mm-hmm. And originally that's why Idaho was still allowed to play Temple. They did not say you could not play out of conference schedules. Mm-hmm. Then there was another vote that occurred that enough schools did not deem it like fair or competitive, was not competitively fair to let some schools, basically Idaho, I think NAU and Weber, like the only 3 really pursuing it. And you would assume the Montana schools might have taken a poke around at it to pursue an out-of-conference schedule. Because, I'm already saying it right now, like Idaho versus Idaho State, Montana State. Those 3 play each other. Then do a Missouri State, Bobby versus Paul, home and home. Boom. You have 6 games. I would have been content with 6. And then maybe you play 2 FBS games. That's the thing. The FBS was allowed to play 2 FCS games this year because of the unique scenario. So you could have played like a UTEP and a Arkansas State or an old Sunbelt team, maybe App State or Coastal Carolina, some of our friends from the FBS for CS podcast. So, yeah, I just wish they would have left it up to the schools. And I know they're trying to keep all their members happy. And when 4 states, because Colorado aren't even allowed to have teams practicing, they're going to look out for their best interests. I think it just points out what Brent Wahlberg kind of retweeted my tweet about it. Maybe this is the natural break the Big Sky's been looking at. Pick the schools that appear to be more aligned in Idaho State, Montana State, Weber, Southern Utah, NAU. Maybe throw in Dixie State when Eastern finally gets, their financial picture figured out and their state is safe to play. You give them an invite. I believe that puts you at 10 teams, 9 game round robin. That's enough for you to play one other FCS team and a FBS money game if you want. I think that'd be the perfect Big Sky schedule. Then let UC Davis, Sac State, all them go form the new WAC or bring back the Big West or something. But I don't know. I think it's like a natural point. But yeah, but that's it. Football's being played, which just made me a little sad that Idaho isn't playing. But you know what? If we go into the fall and we win and somehow secure one of these 16 playoff spots, because they just announced that in the FCS as well, though, 16 teams with all 10 AQs. That means 6 at-larges. And I assume at-large now. Sorry to the Southland, the SoCon. It's going to be 2 Big Sky, 2 Missouri Valley, 2 CAA. This is not the year to we'll take a chance on a second, SoCon team or Big South team. No, sorry, Monmouth. Sorry, Kennesaw. If you don't win your conference, it's Big Sky winner, next 2 schools, Missouri, North Dakota State, and then probably South Dakota State, Northern Iowa. And then CAA is going to be like JMU, Villanova, Albany, So Towson. I just think you're not going to throw a bone to sorry, Nichols or Sam Houston State. There are some good teams that could probably get it, but they just won't. But that's a whole different episode. We got all fall to talk about that kind of stuff. But I want to keep this one about where we're at. Martin, what's going on in your life and how can the people find you?
As most of you know, I nothing a whole lot's going on in my life right now. I'm just working at Schweitzer Engineering. Kind of doing my thing there, and then also, which if there's also coworkers that listen to this podcast right now, say hi, please. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter at Hemi at Hemi_71 for all the recruiting stuff. And apparently, as of this recording, 2022 offers are going out right now, so got to keep up track on that.
Maybe they should start calling us Northern Arizona University.
Yeah, Northern Arizona. You
can find me at Chris_P_Hammond. Schedule is kind of still up in the air. We've got a lot of stuff coming together. We've got episode recorded with the Splash Sisters that we're going to try to push a little bit more toward basketball season. We've got David Vobora on the books. We've got Alyssa Charleston on the books. We've got Theo Lawson on the books. We've got Michael Shandugar on the books. We're working on some other people, hopefully. So if there's somebody you want to see, tweet us or tweet them and tag us, Mark Schlereth. If everybody tweeted Mark Schlereth at You Should Go On Tubs at the Club, I bet you he would do it. So that's your guys' mission. One last thank you. If you haven't joined our Patreon, you can do it. We've got a lot of different tier levels. It's just another great way to support us now that we're on YouTube and doing the buzz for our hosting to get on Spotify and everything. Podcast became a little bit more expensive. But so if you want to help us out, we'll never have a paywall, but go over to patreon.com/Tubs of the Club. We want to give a thanks to our Tub Card members, Dallas Hammer and Mathew Janicek. I probably murdered that. And also our premium drink token purchasers, Nick Weber and Nick Marv Stutzman. So thank you guys for the support. You help keep the lights on here. Now it's time. No, you know what, Martin? You're on the podcast. This is always going to be your line.
And now it's time for the best band in all the land, the Sound of Idaho, to play us out. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals.